Hello! This is another thoughts on video on Volcanic Activity Beta 4. I had just done a pre-judging session about a few hours ago with some other judges, pre-judges, and I have a lot of thoughts on this map, so I want to get them out in video form, so maybe you can use it, whatever. You do you. But here I am. So, I'm going to be going over both gameplay and detailing, since this is a beta map, and this is partially detailed. I do want to go over detailing, so hopefully this helps. First thing I want to go over is immediately walking out of spawn. I guess that door opening won't work. The first thing that you have to do immediately walking out of spawn is, if you want to keep going straight, which is usually what players will do once they exit their spawn, you have to jump over this fence. And this fence isn't the most graceful thing to jump over. If you do a normal jump and you get stuck on it, it's a lot better if you crouch jump, but overall you probably shouldn't have a jump right out of spawn, because that breaks up flow of your map. It's a bit janky to jump over. I've noticed that during playing, because I was like, this is annoying to jump over. And if you don't want to jump over it, you have to take a left through this narrow opening, and then you can either go over here, which I don't think anybody did, or down here, which I also don't think anybody did. Everybody jumped. So that's this out of the way. What I would do for this fence is get rid of it. You don't need this fence here. It just gets them away. Just it being here breaks up movement quite enough where it's just not good. So just get rid of this, and then you'll be able to. Yeah, it'll be fine. The second spawn here is a bit awkward, and I say that in where it's placed. So there's only really one route. Oh, I need to turn on cheats. There's really only one route on this map, because this map is a gatebot map, and that is to here. And the robots take this left path, and the problem that I see with this left path is that when robots are going along, they'll walk along, and then they'll obviously always have eyes on this spawn room when they're coming up. And so exiting, and especially since it's on the mid ground, I call this the mid ground, I'll get to that in a moment. So what I'm saying is that this spawn is not ideal to spawn in. You're at the mid ground, while that's at the high ground, and you're immediately in line of sight of this. So hope you have fun fighting robots. This hatch is also slightly above ground. You can see the seam of it right here. I would just lower this by a little bit. Sometimes there is a problem where you can still see the texture, the brush right here on the lower dips of it, but you're just gonna have to suck it up and clip a little bit of the brushes to fix that. It might get a little bit messy, but that's just what we have to do. These lights also have collision on. Turn collision off on these, because you can get stuck on them. As you can see, I'm walking forward. So these shouldn't have collision. I don't even know what these do. They seem to emit light, but it's really not obvious, so yeah. You got this wall of random posters up here. This is the only conglomeration. There's other areas where there's some, but for the most part this is a huge mess. You got the Icarus poster, which is an advertisement. It doesn't really fit in the sort of industrial theme where you're going for in a volcano, and it's also slightly transparent, so you can kind of see it behind. You got the slip from Decoy here for whatever reason. This doesn't really seem like a facility to trick robots, or whatever. This seems very important to defend. So, you got the robot kick, a very large robot kick sign. You got the maintenance report paper, which is up here for some reason. It seems like something that'd go in like a room where it would be accessible. You got a Manco humor gorilla thing that doesn't make sense in this area. You got the rodent control sign, which also doesn't make sense. Like, there's nothing there. Why'd you throw this here? And you got some other sign, which I can't read. But it really just looks like you threw a bunch of overlays onto this and called it a day. So I would just say get rid of this too. This poster doesn't make any sense. Do not feed the birds. I hate this. Only because the font is TF font. TF font is usually only used on the HUD. Like, if you look over here, there's nothing using the TF font. It's like this one in particular uses it for some reason, and I really don't like it. So, and there's also no birds. It's a volcano. Hopefully birds aren't going in here. More on detailing. What is wood doing in a volcano? I want to ask. Who, and this is the swamp sawmill wood, like bridges and staircases and platforms and such. It makes sense in the context of sawmill, because what sawmill is that it's a sawmill in the middle of the woods. And so, you know, most buildings are going to be made out of wood, and so it makes sense to have this wood structuring. And the other thing about it is that since it's so rural and, you know, it's kind of to be expected to be a little bit messy, yeah, these are going to be there. This is an industrial plant that looks to be, it's trying to be very professional because you're in a volcano. This looks very messy. The wood beaming and the very, like, you got bolts and nails holding it together, and it's like, what's going on here? It all looks shoddily put together for an industrial facility. This doesn't make any sense. Why this wouldn't be here? You don't want it to be there. So there's a few other places where wood is used, one very major, but for the most part, you really don't want to be using wood for a volcano or an industrial plant in general, because it looks very out of place if it is anything more than just temporary. So that's my advice there. This door is awfully lit, in more ways than one. First of all, awfully lit in the terms that there's a lot of light here for a door that does nothing. It doesn't go anywhere, it's simply there for detail. And it also brings up the problem of, well, you're in this industrial plant, why is there a door only supported by wood, by these little wood support beams? It doesn't really make any sense, so. And awfully lit in the terms that this frame is completely unlit. I assume that's because you have not, you're not using a final compile settings, or you're not using static prop lighting or whatever, which you really, really awfully should be using final compiles at this point. You should be using final compile tools like static prop lighting or static prop shadows and the texture light shadows or whatever, because at this point you're in beta. You should be seeing what your lighting will actually look like once you put it into a release state. I mean, essentially beta, some people consider beta essentially a release state. So you should, at this point, in beta, you're done with the layout, you're going on to detailing, and you should be using, what I'm getting at is that you should be using final compiles, and not doing so just makes your map look messy. So when you're doing detailing, you'd like it to at least look nice. So that's my feedback on this. there's one other area where this happens, and I'll get into that. This lighting is weird, but whatever. Again, texture shadows will fix this ugly shadow. Not texture, model shadows will kind of fix this, but whatever. Now let's get back into gameplay, and that is height variation. So you look at this area, and you have two major forms of height. You have the mid-ground, which is all along here, and then you have the high ground, which is up here. The problem is that the high ground doesn't really get used that much. There's nothing really enticing you to use it. The staircase is kind of shrouded in darkness, and the only other way up is a crate jump, prop jump. And so this area kind of gets underutilized, and that kind of ends up with this not being really used. So the only combat space that gets used is this mid-ground. And having one form of height for fighting robots in is real bad. Right, real bad, it's just real boring. Everything being at the same height plane isn't really interesting. You got this single hallway going on. This doesn't really see that much combat. You got this single hallway going on. You know, a sniper could watch this entire area, and an NG could set up here and probably do fine for themselves. But for the most part, this is a single hallway at a single height, which the other height doesn't really get used that often. And that's a major problem that I see in this map, is that while there is some height variation, it's placed in ways that doesn't really affect the map and doesn't really get used too much. It doesn't look like it was really, height variation was really put into the thought of the original layout. And so for the most part, it's all on one layer. There are some bumps, like this hallway, and I call it a hallway because it essentially is. This door opens up, but for the most part, this is a single straight hallway with nothing really going on around it, with a bump, which helps out. It does make this a little bit more interesting, because without this, this would just be a single straight shot line, and that really wouldn't work that well. But you just need that height variation. Height variation doesn't seem like it got considered, which really seems to be affecting this map. Also, this door isn't anything. It's a credits room with engineer robots dancing in it, so take that as you will. This doesn't really get used too much. What I did see it get used as was as a shortcut from spawn to the mid, which that was essentially it. Also, I feel weird about you using this door, because this door usually means that it's a one-way, but it's a two-way. Also, I never noticed that before. That is probably also something that's fixed with the final compile. So, I mean, this room's kind of neat, but it just doesn't really see that much use. So, yeah, this is, it's alright. It exists. It just doesn't really get used. At least I never used it. But yeah, this is just a single straight shot, and yeah. And that's kind of how this map plays in general, because it is, for the most part, a single, you know, flat, straight path. There's not any height going on until, like, there's not any major height for a lot of this space. This is all, like, all the way around here, this is just a single layer. Like, over here, you got this little platform, but whether or not you want to use it, that's whatever. It's not like it's too huge of an advantage, but you'd be using this area, and I say that when this door opens. Another thing I want to note real quick is that you can't shoot through this prop, while you can these. For the most part, you always want your fences to be able to shoot through even the prop, because that just makes fighting a lot easier, because then projectiles won't get eaten by fences and whatever. And sentry targeting is also a lot smoother. I noticed that when I was defending here, is that robots would walk by, hit this beam, and then the sentry would lose targeting on them for a brief moment, and then would regain, lose, regain, lose, regain, lose, regain, lose. So, it's just, you could either turn off you could either do the same thing what you're doing with the fences over there, or because there would get rid of them, you could just get rid of them and this area would probably play just the same. Or you could use these metal handrails that are only present in this building, as far as I know. I think they're present over here as well. No, they're only present here. Which, these make a lot more in contextual sense, being here. This is like an industrial facility. Overall, I would expect more of a gorge theme from this map. You know, a clean industrial facility. I wouldn't imagine people had... well, whatever, ignore that. I would expect more in like concrete brick walls instead of just normal traditional brick walls. Like sort of a clean theming that comes from gorgeous theming. And so I need to reactivate the soundscape. That's kind of what I expected, or what I would expect out of a volcanic facility. A facility within a volcano would be that, but whatever. It feels weird seeing bricks, I guess. And brick and concrete, it seems very contextually confused. Like, you don't know which one to go with, so... Also, this prop's shadows are fucked. You need to turn off the shadowing. You need to disable shadows on this, and also disable collision. I would recommend giving this map a full clip pass, because there's a lot of areas that you can get stuck on. There's lots of little lips that would really ought to get fixed, because there's a few areas that you can get snagged on. So that would be my suggestion. Before we get into the gate box, this area is pretty much, yeah, this area is pretty much how I feel on this map's height, is that there's nothing going on here. Like, there's a little bit of height from here, but the distance and usability of it is probably limited. I mean, I could see a player using this up here for a little bit, but it's kind of out of a way, and kind of far away, a little bit far away, and there's no real easy way to get to it other than like breaking away from combat. Like, oh man, give me a moment, I'm gonna come over here. Now I got the high ground against these robots, while probably taking chip damage from over here. But yeah, this is like just flat. There's nothing going on here. You got this hole here that's being covered up by wood again. First of all, how did this hole get made? Second of all, these are real thick. This is real thick metal, which I guess I should expect from a volcanic facility. Yeah, I guess it just looks weird. I guess I'd expect, again, concrete. How did this hole get created? Why'd they cover it up with wood? It just... This is something you could probably just removed. Because I think this used to be a death pit, and then it became not a death pit. But it's still... oof. So, yeah. Alright. I'm gonna break away from there. This control point, first of all, the building it's in is a single box, which I don't really think is too inherently interesting. There's not really anything interesting going in here. It's literally just a box. The supports you have for it are literal wooden beams. Again, using wood in a volcano and using wood as like stairs in the structural integrity of a building seems like a recipe for disaster, and it seems very silly. Like, I would be expecting metal catwalks being like held up, or just not wood. But no, this isn't really too interesting. It doesn't really scream that this is a control point. There's not like anything going on here that would scream, yo, this is a control point. It's just sort of, here's a control point in a box. So there's not really too much interesting going on here. And then again, you have the metal handrails. So it's like you took the three main materials in Team Fortress 2, like brick, wood, metal. Like you took like Red's 2-foot detailing, like the wood from 2-foot, and then you threw it in with like the bricks from Well, I guess, and then handrails from Gorge or whatever. So this building just doesn't make sense. These stairs are weird. I don't know what you're doing with these. You could probably just remake this. I don't really get it, being able to see through it. That doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to me. But whatever. Oh yeah. Your resupply station, or resupply upgrade station, is a bit out of the way. First of all, misaligned texture. It's very out of the way in the terms, first of all, this isn't really a forward upgrade station. This is like a middle upgrade station. Like, it's so far away from the front. And the second problem is, where is it? If I was like standing here, coming back from the fight, I don't know where the upgrade station is coming down from here at a first glance. So, if you were to keep it here, putting one of those little rotating lights that exists would help this out so much to let you know that, hey, this is a forward resupply station, forward upgrade station. You can get upgrades here. Also, you have this bug going on. Yeah, again, this is another, like, the static shadow lighting. Another final compile setting, kind of. Not really a final compile, but that's usually what they're used on, is final compiles. This is something else that gets fixed if you put in the proper VRAD lighting settings. This happens on Brugge before final compiles happened. Or just happen in general. So, yeah, you want to fix that, or else this is the void. So, yeah. What else? This door doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. I get what it's trying to do, but it being flush against this wall just makes it look silly. I get what you're trying to do with, like, the whole jammed thing, and I don't know if it really works just on its own. It would kind of make a little bit more sense if it was like a crate. That was like maybe a crate or some sort of object blocking this from being fully closed, and so it kind of has that little tilted appearance, and also not being flush against the wall and having a frame like the other doors. Not those doors, but like this door, having a frame around it would also probably make it look a little bit better. But at the moment, this looks a little bit silly to hide some skybox tanks. I think those are skybox tanks. It'd be cool if this was a little bit more obvious that this opens up a door, or if this is the A gate, not opens up a door, that is the door. I think there's a texture for, like, there's a lock texture out there. There's, Snowy Coast uses a sign that says this like, door opens when A is capped or something. There's a texture relating to that somewhere in the game. Some sort of signification that, hey, this will open, I guess. I mean, it's well lit enough, but, it's just a door. And considering the other doors that are well lit but don't open, you can throw players a bone. This little area is probably the most height variation in the entire map, And I think it's also the area that I had previously talked to you about height variation. So that's kind of where this comes from. And this is probably the most well use of height variation, because this is the first area in the entire, this is the only area in the entire map where there is substantial low ground. So I said mid-ground for this area, because this is, for the most part, the main mid-ground. You have this little bump here, but that kind of breaks up the monotony of this again, which is nice. But then here you actually have like high ground coming around here, and then you have a dip here that actually creates some low ground. It's actually easier for you to fight enemies that are down here, which does make combat a little bit more interesting. Instead of it just being a flat plane, now there's something dynamic going on here. You know, you have this high up area, you have the low ground, you have the mid ground. It's a bit extreme having all three of them together, but I kind of talked to you about that, so I'll whatever. But, and then you have high ground over here, which does get often used, I think either because I had a teleporter there where the defenders were using this area, which I'll get into this area in a bit, which this actually ended up being the most interesting spot to fight on. But now we have the front, which is another problem that I have with this map, in how flat it is. This is entirely mid-ground. There's no substantial, this is a panel for a panel. There's no substantial height variation in this area, which ends up making this area really, really boring. And this is a weird front in itself. This doesn't really scream to me that it's a front. Like, you have this, which is the tank spawn, which is kind of fun when it pops up. And it does, like, you know, bring out... It is obvious that this is where the tank is coming from with all of this here. It is fun, but, you know, you got the tank entrance. You got this mess. This is an absolute mess. I would do something else with this, because this is an absolute prop spam mess. I would redesign how robots drop down from this. You could do something like this. You could look at, I guess, Train Yard, but Train Yard uses props, but in a substantial prop way, I guess. You could have like a minor drop down, like Sequoia has. I think, yeah, Sequoia. You don't need too huge of a drop down for it to be obvious, but this is, I really don't like how you've done this, so I would do something different. But my other problem with this map is, well, not with this map, with this front, is just, it really doesn't feel like a front because of just how, like, separated it all feels. Like, this little area over here feels like its entire own separate area, which doesn't really, which really shouldn't happen, I guess. This is sort of a, I feel like it's kind of similar to Rodenburg, where Rodenburg's cliff area has all that fencing to sort of separate itself. But this is like part of the front instead of a side route sort of area, where there's a spawn, but it's meant as a flank. But I guess I should stop the Rodenburg comparisons before I confuse myself even further, but this whole area just feels really super disconnected, and it feels odd. It just, I'm not really sure how I feel about it. Like this, like these side areas feel really small. It doesn't feel right. And when I played Engineer on this, I either set up here or I set up here, and I found here was better because robots would still funnel their way towards me, rather than here, where it was like, they were coming from here and would, I don't know, but for the most part, this front feels really weird, and it's really flat, it's weirdly disconnected, yeah, so I would definitely give this a revamp, because this is eh. Another thing that I have wrong with this is gatebots sometimes will come along and they'll go through here instead of going down the main path. Some of the gatebots go down the main path, but some of them go down here. And I feel like this is way too good of a flank, because it really doesn't take you that long to get out here. And you're in pretty good cover. And if there's enough of you, like I saw on the intermediate mission that this mission has, if there's a lot of them, or if it's a giant, this area becomes hectic really quickly, because, uh-oh, there's suddenly a giant here, and they bypassed us. So me, being the engineer, I needed to, like, help out. That's what I was doing. I'm very mobile as an engineer, so whether or not that's a problem, I don't know. But it's like, oh shit, they're coming over here, I need to defend from here, too. Sometimes. I don't know, it feels real hectic. I didn't use this hallway too much. Whether or not other judges did, I don't know. If they did, they can respond in the feedback thread, I guess. But yeah. Also, again, with the wooden stairs, these you should you should not be using wood. Structural for a volcano map or a volcano facility, because that's dumb. Yeah, that's my thoughts on this area. Very flat, very confusingly separated. Yeah. A few other minor nitpicks would be, again, lighting. I think this is both textures being misaligned, whether or not you're using different textures in not using final compiles, because Brook has a problem where lighting on the same brush side, like on the same side of a wall, will on different brushes look weird, look different from each other, but on a final compile it's fixed. So again, another thing to do. Oh yeah, I need to get to the skybox, but I'll do that in a moment. But yeah, overall for your layout, very flat and very uninteresting. It really doesn't look like a whole lot of a space. I just remembered a name for this, and it's sort of a ravine. I think somebody called it like ravine syndrome or whatever. But essentially, your entire map feels like a ravine, where you have the single bot path, and then the entire map is built around this path, but it's built around it. It doesn't feel like it's built on it. It doesn't feel like you considered it, you changed it up. No, it feels very aroundish, because all the height variation is around the path. It's the few bumps, I'm gonna be honest, the few bumps don't really change much, but it's all around your map, or around the path. So, like this little area here, this feels kind of good, but in consideration of that sort of ravining. But yeah, it doesn't break up that much. It doesn't. Which is going to be really hard to hear, but that's kind of a fundamental problem with the map, which is probably not something you probably want to hear. Like, you probably don't want to hear that there's a fundamental problem with the map. But usually when maps ravine like this, it's just a fundamental problem that without a whole lot of editing and a whole lot of redesigning, that's just going to be an issue you're going to be fighting with for a long, long time. So, there you go. There's my drop. Let's get into the skybox, because it's the one last thing I want to touch into. First of all, this map is being supported like the whole facility is being supported by these metal beams. For the most part, you don't see these metal beams, and while I think it's a kind of cool concept, it doesn't really work out that well, because, again, you never see these. Like, you'll see this, and that's it, unless you're super rocket jumping. And that's really it, and this is the only facility. It'd be kind of cool if there was, like, a far-off facility where you could see those metal beams, and be like, oh, that's how this whole thing works, but you largely don't see that. Other things about the skybox is your volcano sides are very obviously seaming, and that's because of the lighting, because the displacement sides aren't properly sewn together. They're just sort of attached to the end they just sort of go through each other. What happens is that the environment lighting hits the sides that are outside of those displacements, and then that lighting from it, because it can't get this because it's hitting the displacement side, it's hitting like this one, so this side can't hit this. Yeah. And what happens is it bleeds out into the rest of the area. So what I would recommend is to sew together all of these sides, so that instead they join together nicely. You don't get that ugly seaming. And then, of course, you have the environment lighting hitting here. I would just have another orange lighting here to counteract that, since the lava is probably going to be, like with any other light fighting night lighting, the brighter light is going to win. And, of course, lava is pretty bright, so, yeah, I have a little bit of lighting there. It's not too noticeable since it's on the side, on one of the sides of the map. But it's something that you might want to do. An additional thing is that these lava bubbles sometimes seem to appear in the map. And what I would do, like these two fires, that would appear in the map. Now what happens is that the 3D skybox renders below the world geometry, so it wouldn't be too obvious unless you're looking at the skybox. And even then, sometimes the lava spurts will appear over geometry, like above geometry, and it'll look weird. Because it's like, it's so close, but yeah, like there. So I would have the lava bubbles be restricted to just this area if you're not planning on adding other facilities. An area where other facilities aren't going to be present, so it just shows up there. One other thing before I wrap this up, because I don't want to ramble for too hard, because this is almost 40 minutes, is your demo files are ludicrously large. The demos for your map, and your map specifically, this doesn't happen on other maps, are hundreds of megabytes large. Usually a good 30-minute demo, or 20-minute demo, will be, like, I'll say 30 because including, like, setup times, is like maybe 40, 50, 60, at worst I've seen 100 megabytes. Your maps, for whatever reason, are getting, like, the file size of demos are inflating, like, dangerously. The demo that we recorded today for about I'd say a 30-minute demo was 450 megabytes. And the 5-minute time we spent before that was 80 megabytes, which is ludicrously large. And I would like to say that it's these particles, because that's like the only dynamic thing that's going on in the map is all these lava particles. They spurt out randomly all over the place. And what I'm thinking is that since they appear to happen server side, the demo then saves those, and a lot of them happen at once, so it's probably inflating your file size. So what I would try as an experiment, get rid of all these, see if your demos decrease in size, and then at that point, cut if that is the source of your demo files being hundreds of megabytes large. I think I have like 1.5 gigabytes of my computer space being saved by your maps demo. Because at that point, cut it. Because one other thing is that servers that auto-run demos, i.e. the Madness vs. Machine demos that will definitely be going up, will auto-log and auto-save every single demo, and you're going to take up a lot of file space very quickly. 450 megabytes, 500 megabytes, whatever, is no small number. You're going to fill up server size incredibly quickly. Like, that's like 12, that's like 10 other demos that you could fill up with the one demo from here. So I would see about getting rid of this. I would definitely see about getting rid of anything dynamic that's going on that could be doing that. Whether or not it be these engineers, I don't think it was the engineers, but whatever it is, you really need to fix it, because it's going to be a problem down the line. Oh yeah, and then these, no, I don't think anyone's going to notice this, sorry. It's a lot of props for something a few people are going to see, so do what you want. I think that's all of my thoughts on this map. Very hard-hitting thoughts, but I hope to see that you can do something with this, do something with the feedback that I've given you. At its worst, this map may have a fundamental problem that will not change. And at that worst point, you might just want to detail this for practice and then start a new project. That's all I really have to say about this map. I hope this is helpful at all. I don't know when I'll do a next one of these, because who knows? Alright, farewell.